A movie that I really enjoyed was a recent tank war movie called Fury. This was a story around an American tank crew fighting in Nazi Germany during the final weeks of the European theatre of World War II. It's a really good movie, but what interested me the most about it was not the actors or the characters played, though I must say they are phenomenal in the story. It's more about the tank itself and the one they drove, the M4A2 76W HVSS. Now I must admit this is where I'm a little stumped. I didn't know too much about this tank, so I looked a little deeper and found a really fascinating surprise. In fact, the tank the movie was supposed to use was the M4A3 and not the M4A2. So I think it's time for us again to take a journey and find out its history and War Thunder comparisons. The M4 Sherman was the most widely used medium tank by the United States and Western Allies in World War II. The Sherman proved to be reliable, relatively cheap to produce, and available in great numbers. It was also the basis of several other armored fighting vehicles, including self-propelled artillery, tank destroyers, and armored recovery vehicles. Tens of thousands were distributed through the Lend-Lease program to the British Commonwealth and Soviet Union at the time. In fact, the tank was named by the British after the American Civil War General William Tecumseh Sherman. Now I won't be going through all the variants in depth, as the tank in discussion I want to focus on is the M4A3 76W HVSS Sherman, or also known as the M4A3E8. Many people call this tank the ultimate Sherman, but what fascinates me is that the designations with an E8 at the end only officially apply to prototype vehicles used to test the new horizontal volute spring system suspension abbreviated as HVSS. Its experimental E8 designation led to the Easy 8 nickname for the Sherman so equipped. There are many websites that say it was because the tank was powered by a V8 engine. This is actually wrong. Not all the Sherman tanks were given this experimental designation were powered by V8 engines. The M4A376W had a W in its name. You're probably asking what the W stood for, right? Well, the letter W referred to the fire-resistant wet stowage containers for the 76mm shells. The ammunition storage in the new tanks was improved by surrounding the racks with water and ethylene glycol-filled jackets. This was meant to reduce the probability of explosion in the event of penetration of the armor by enemy fire. The tanks equipped with this protection system were designated wet, hence the W in the name. Now diving into its gun. The tank's main gun was the long-barreled 76mm L55 M1A2 fitted onto the T-23 turret, which could penetrate 143mm of unsloped homogeneous armor at 100 meters and 97mm at 1000 meters using the usual M79 round. High-velocity armor-piercing HVAP ammunition, standardized as the M93, became available in August 1944 for the 76mm gun. The projectile contained a tungsten core penetrator surrounded by a lightweight aluminium body, which gave it a higher velocity and more penetrating power. Post-World War II, the M4A3 76W HVSS Sherman saw combat in the Korean War under the Commonwealth and US banners. From the tank standpoint, the M4A3 75W tank, which the 1 Canadian battalion was equipped with, had done an excellent job in Korea. However, it did possess limitations which were serious enough to warrant improvement. In general, the basic defect of the tank was in fact its inadequate HVSS suspension system. The major complaint was that the tracks came off too easily when negotiating rough trails or when making sharp turns. A fairly interesting ending to this tank that I for one never knew about. Now I don't want to be all historical and try correct the great movie, but there are one or two interesting points and the reason why they use the M4A2 that might be significant to you watching this video. The specific tank battle with the Tiger. Firstly, they used, as mentioned before, the wrong tank. In 1945, the most common of tanks were actually the M4A3E8, but the reason for this difference was only because there were no M4A3s available in a running state for the movie at the time. To be fair though, the differences are very minimal. I'm not sure with the M4A2, but from my research, the M4A3 could actually penetrate the Tiger head-on, as they had HVAP ammo readily available at the time. But enough of the movie, let's jump into the actual tank and look at some comparisons to make against its historical counterpart. Right, so now that I'm in the tank, the one thing that I have noted is that the tank is a very competent tank. Though to consider that at this battle rating, the armor is not the most reliable against the 88mm or even the Soviet 85mm shells. Its mobility is very good, and that does help you get somewhat out of the thick of things fairly fast. I consider myself a support tank in battle and focus on keeping with the pack. That is where I would be the most dangerous to the opposing team. Whilst driving the M4A3 is a pleasure, historically tankers needed to be a really skilled driver to maneuver this tank, as its HVSS system would cause the tracks to come off fairly quickly on a sharp turn. But I'm in a game here, so if that was to be the case, it would make the game somewhat frustrating, as many of these older tanks had issues before even getting to the battlefield. I mean, I'm willing to guess that at least 50% of the tanks in game would break down before even getting to the front, so it's good that they don't include all the minor details. Now that I'm focusing on playing this tank, I think the more focal point would be how someone goes about positioning themselves with this tank. It's got a fairly high profile, so it's more visible than others, but on the contrary, its gun is effective to drop an opponent provided you spot and drop them first. Though also to remember that this tank is not the fastest tank out there, but as mentioned before, the HVSS provides that mobility now for it. So turning and maneuvering is where it's at, and that is where the golden rule comes in. The number one rule of this tank I have discovered is to never fight alone with it. Always be with a teammate and use cover when available, since it will give me a great advantage. I've learned this the hard way. As mentioned before, it's got the goods to support that playstyle the best. With its battle rating of 5.7, it is slotted in against the dangerous opposition of the Tiger 1 and IS series of tanks. And no, I don't have the armor to go toe to toe with these tanks, period. Hence that's where the golden rule comes in. I've written it down and memorized it, and it helps. Right, so let's dive into the armor specifics of this tank. Since this is a W variant or wet variant, it does come with the wet ammo storage that greatly reduces the chance of the ammo rack detonation. This is 100% accurate to the historical version, as it is the specific reason for the W that was exactly related to the wet storage design to assist in reducing armor detonation back in the 1940s. Moving on to the hull and side armor, I've managed to track down a data sheet which I will leave in the description below. After looking at the armor stats in the game, the hull is 63.5mm at 47 degrees in front and 38mm at 0 degrees on the side. This is 100% correct as per the stats provided on the sheet. Pretty cool actually. Looking at the top, it is only 19.5mm thick, which is also spot on to the original build of this tank. I am fairly confident to say that the tank is accurate in the armor department. However, I do suspect there might be a little difference in the back. And when I mean back, I mean its engine. Looking at the actual engine used, it was a 4GAA V8 engine that had a brake horsepower of 500 at 2600 RPM. Its maximum recorded speed was 41 km an hour on a flat road and had a power to weight ratio of 13.5. Now in game, the horsepower is correct at 500. Top speed though has a difference of being 2 km an hour more, and its horsepower per ton ratio is 15.2. So why is this the case? I mean, the fully combat weight of the tank was around 37.1 tons actually, but in-game it's 32.9 tons. I can only guess the reason for this was for game balancing purposes, or perhaps another data sheet floating around. I mean, driving this tank definitely doesn't feel you're in a 32-ton tank, but again, I think the HVSS plays a role here. It has widened tracks to start with, so I would think more coverage on the tracks allows for faster movement. It doesn't really struggle much on hills compared to some of the other tanks in its class, so there's definitely a plus driving this tank around for me. And that is to get places and ensure I keep up with the pack. Back to the armor, the turret mantlet is pretty strong at 88.9mm, and the turret sides are 63.5mm. Though as mentioned before, this might not be enough to stop that 88mm Tiger shot. The cupola is at 63.5mm as well, and is fairly angular, increasing its bounce rate. Historically, all of this is on point, so I can comfortably say that the tank's armor build in the game is a true representation of the tank. So with the armor and mobility covered and compared, looking at the previous Shermans, this one presents better mobility than the last few due to the new HVSS. The suspension, like in real life, also seems to give the vehicle a much smoother ride across terrain, making it easier to acquire targets while on the move due to the stability. Let me jump into the tank again and try it out in a live environment and see if I can pot a shot or two.
Oh, what? He didn't see me? Oh, okay. Easy peasy, 650 meters. Come on. About 300 meters. Oh, yes. Come on, come on. Oh, let me go right through the trees. Oh, yes! Down it goes. That's 3 in a row. I'm on fire. Oh, there's something. Come on. Let's get the shot in. Looks like a tiger. Oh, yes. Goodbye. On its ammo. Nice. Easy peasy. They're not even looking at me. Oh, I think that's a Studer Emil. Drop it. Goodbye.
So now we enter the business end of the review and comparison, the gun. The M4A3E8 actually has 3 different gun variants, the M1A1, the M1A1C, and the M1A2. The M1A2 design is the one used in the game as it's fitted with a muzzle brake. The turret traverse is hydraulic and rotates at around 24 degrees a second. Now in the game, that traverse rate is a lot slower, around half the actual speed at stock level. The reason they do this, I would think, is that turning the turret in-game is vastly easier than in a real-world environment. But regardless, I do like the 76mm cannon for sure, for when put into a good pair of hands, can cause absolute devastation to the opposing team.
Oh, that's a tiger. Oh, tiger 1, perfect shot. Boom, out the way, goodbye. Ammo rack destroyed. And as expected, oh wait, hello. That's the Sherman. Okay. Double kill. Take out some Chinese tanks. Oswind. Worst mistake. Worst mistake, mate. Oh, but that did not pin. That's a problem. I've got 4 left here. Oh, there we go. Come out on top.
As for the ammo, the gun is designed to handle quite a number of ammo types. At stock, you are equipped with the M79 AP ammo, which is good for starters as the penetration is okay, and the M4A3E8 HE shell. Later on, you can unlock the M62 APC BC shell with some explosive filler. There is the M88 smoke shell, which is great for tactical plays, and lastly the M93 APCR shell that is useful to really get your teeth sunk into the heavier opponents if required.
Also, another few factors to remember is that the gun has a vertical stabilizer that helps quite a bit when moving and shooting at the same time. Its reload time is also around 7.6 seconds at basic crew tier. If you want to decrease that load time, training an expert crew can reduce it down for you around 5.9 seconds.
So with all that covered, it's pros and cons time. And with this tank, it has quite a lot more going for it than you think. Here are the pros. Good handling thanks to the HVS's suspension and wide tracks. Single plane gun stabilizer allows firing on the move. Very fast turret traverse. Short reload time for the 76mm gun. M62 shell has explosive filler, which deals good post-penetration damage. Wet ammo storage greatly reduces the chance of ammo rack detonation. Access to APCR round for increased penetration and smoke shells. Top-mounted 50 cal machine gun is useful against aircraft and open-topped or lightly armored vehicles. And then for the cons. Armor is very weak against most cannons at its battle rating. 76mm gun has trouble frontally penetrating armored opponents, such as the Tiger II and T-44. Its tall profile makes it a big target. So my final take on the tank is that of course I would get it. Though it might not be the exact actual tank used in Fury, it definitely is the historical version they wanted to use. Unfortunately, if you think the previous tank is closer to the movie version, well, you would be mistaken, as that is not the HVS's version at all. Putting that aside, this tank is absolutely fun to play with. It's mobile, packs a great punch with its cannon, and can score you many kills in the game. The price in game is a pricey 170,000 Silver Lions. and 46,000 research points. All the optional extras will set you back around 77,300 silver lions and 40,100 research points. Overall, it's definitely a decent buy. It's also fairly iconic, and it's really fun to play. Catch us in the next episode where I drive the iconic Panther A, but also keep an eye out on the channel as I have an awesome new show with a new member to the High Ping team. And once again, on that bombshell, we will see you next time. Good night.